Well, if you like art, I got a show for you, ladies and gentlemen. It is called Penrod. The Penrod Art Fair coming up September 12th next month here in Indianapolis. And join us on the newsline. Talk about all that. Is no stranger to this program, a little bit of a stranger to this program. Tom Askey, who is the 2026 Penrod Fair chairman. So, Tom, my friend, thank you very much for being with us. Always good to chat with you, sir.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having us on. We really appreciate it.
So, for folks who may not know exactly what is Penrod, I'll ask you, what is Penrod?
Yeah, so Penrod as an organization, this is actually our 60th year as an organization. We're an all-volunteer organization that puts on our main event, obviously, is the Penrod Art Fair, but we're bigger than that in that we have three or four other events throughout the year. All the proceeds we raise from all of our events, we pull together into a pot of money, and we actually grant out the money at the end of the year through our granting process. So, like I said, an all-volunteer organization that is trying to raise money and awareness for art and art education.
Now, when we talk about art, what kind of art are we talking about? Are we talking like the classic Mona Lisa, or dogs playing cards?
Yeah, all of it. So the cool thing about the actual fair itself, the Penrod Art Fair, is we'll have over 350 artists across 20 different mediums. So we'll have jewelry, we'll have ceramics, we'll have oil-based paintings, we'll have all different kinds of styles and everything in between. So that's the coolest part I think about Penrod is we have all these artists come from all over the country. Over half our artists come from out of Indiana to Penrod to showcase their art. It's the largest single day art fair. We'll get over 20,000 people to show up to Newfields and support the art community.
Now, I remember when I used to work at WXNT Radio, this was like years and years ago when I had more hair and less stomach. I remember, I want to say Penrod was actually at the Broad Ripple Park is where it was. This is like a million years ago. And I never forget being there because, like I said, this was like a long, long time ago. My favorite piece of art, I wish I would have bought it. You and I kind of talked about it before we started our conversation. It was a painting of Adam and God, and they were wrestling each other. And God had Adam in a headlock on the mat. And the referee was sort of like 1, 2, and get ready to do 3. I was like, I got to have that. So if it's there, if someone still has that 20 years later, that one's mine. So keep your hands off of it. So,
well, I hope it's there. It might be there. I'm not sure. What is interesting about our art fair is we're what's called a juried art fair. And so what that means to be a juried art fair is we actually get over 600 applications applying into Penrod. And then there's 5 volunteers from the local community that actually rank all the different artists. And then based on that ranking determines whether or not they get in or don't get in. And so we leave that up to the experts to decide who's worthy enough to get into Penrod. But we are a juried art fair, which means not everyone who applies to get into Penrod actually gets accepted into Penrod.
So, how do they decide who gets into Penrod? Is it the uniqueness of the art? Is it different?
Yeah, it's a scoring system, and there's 5 or 6 different selection criteria that they'll score the artists on. Creativity, artwork. There's all depending on the medium. There's all these different criteria. One of the biggest things that goes on and that is getting a little in the weeds, but one of the biggest things that happens in the art community is there's a lot of artists that will go buy art from someone else and then resell it via their booth, and they're doing a really good job of identifying those people that are there. And so really trying to make sure that it's all original art that is showing up to the art fair. And they do a good job, like I said, of identifying those areas to making sure that we kind of keep the standard high in terms of the artists we let in.
I mean, people are trying to game the system in the art world. You're kidding. No.
Yeah, right.
I'm shocked. Wow. Imagine that. Someone trying to game the system. Okay, tell you what, I'll get your art, I'll sell it, then I'll pay the proceeds.
Yeah.
You know what? In a weird way, I know it's totally wrong, but in a weird way, I can respect that, even though it's totally wrong. Like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. But every once in a while, you got to applaud creativity. Even now, I know you don't do that because you're, Penrod, you're the good guy. I'll be the bad guy on this one, my friend. Tom Askey, the chairman of the 2026 Penrod Art Fair at Newfields this year, September 12th. But also, you guys have an event up on September 11th.
Yeah, so September 11th is our preview event. It's a little more elevated experience. It's a 21 and over event. It's an elevated price point as a result of that. But the idea is that you can preview specific art areas. If those are familiar with Penrod, it's the green and blue areas in Penrod. So you'll get a preview on the artists. Again, less than 2,000 people there, a little more intimate setting, food, drinks included, obviously music, entertainment, etc. And the idea is that it's a preview party to celebrate all the great things we're doing, but also allows us an additional way to raise money for all of our great causes that we're trying to get back to.
And what are some of the causes that the proceeds that you raise Penrod? What are some of the causes, organizations that are on the donor list?
Yeah, it's great. So we this past year in 2020, I guess 2026, was based on our 2025 results. We granted out over $315,000 to over 90 different organizations that represented 40 different zip codes. And so what organizations? All of it. I mean, there's tons of different art organizations that exist out there. Riley's art children therapy program, they receive a grant from us. Tinley Accelerated Schools, they receive a grant from us. The idea is that there is so much funding that's getting cut across all these different areas. Where can we plug in and offer our small amount of support to these organizations that can maybe have an impact in the community? And so the grant application process, I think we received over $700,000 of requests. Not every organization got a grant. I think we had 120 organizations request for a grant, and we narrowed it into about 95 organizations actually received a grant. And again, $315,000, not the full $700,000 back. So the need is there, the asks are there, and we're trying to do what we can to run a really good fair that, again, will raise all the money back to grant into the community for 2027.
And it's interesting you bring that up because, like I said, you don't need to tell me that money's tight. I mean, we're all having to pinch and scratch and save a little bit. So I understand how it's important that organizations like yours, get the funding they need to help deal with the art related issue. Because I tell people, art is not just somebody getting a paint and an easel and being Bob Ross. It's a lot more to it than that. And also for a lot of kids, a lot of places, art is like it's a positive release. So they don't go out and get into trouble later on.
Oh, there's so many mental health benefits, creative benefits. I mean, we're in the world of AI that's all science and math, and there's a lot of creativity out there that the other side of the brain can do. And so the more you can pour into that, and it doesn't take a lot of dollars. I mean, you talk to some of these school areas, and they're like, man, if we could just have some art boxes that you could donate to us, we can be in the middle of social studies, pull out our art boxes, and we'll do 15 minutes of art creativity that we can be targeted to developing in the youth. So there's just so many different ways that you can have an impact. And we're trying to find these great programs that are out there that are getting a ton of cuts across the board. And all the cuts are happening both in art and more the creative mediums.
Speaking of creative mediums, how do you folks take it into account things like AI, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, where you can basically draw anything and everything? And how do you distinguish between the AI generated art versus the real art? Or have we gotten to that point yet?
This is it's happening for sure, and this is where the jury comes in and helps us a ton, is identifying what those are, what they look like, and making sure that we don't allow them to come into the art fair, because we do want obviously original art coming into the actual fair.
Yeah, because as I jokingly told somebody, I wish you had like a little scanner. That way you could point the scanner like, yep, that's sorry, dude, that is so AI. Can't help you with that one.
We need AI to train it, but is this AI or not AI?
Yeah, pretty much. Tom, we got a couple minutes left here before we close up shop here. What would you say as Penrod has sort of changed and evolved and developed over the years? What would you say is the big difference between this Penrod in 2026 versus the Penrod when you first started versus when Penrod actually first started itself?
Yeah, I mean, I think the core values are still there. We're a mission-aligned organization trying to cultivate arts and culture throughout Central Indiana. And I think that's very much holds true today. We're a volunteer-only organization. That's been the same case for 60 years, which is actually kind of incredible to think about. A volunteer-only organization existing for 60 years. No one's paid any dollars as a result of being in Penrod, but through the goodness of everyone's heart and being willing to volunteer their time, the organization can continue. I think one of the things that it's funny, because it's our 60th year, we're doing a lot of history and reflection on that. I do think we've been able to tell our story a lot more effectively about the impact we can have in the community. And as we're able to tell that story, it's resulted in us allowing to raise more dollars, either through sponsorship or donation or whatever it can, and really get the message out to not only our vendors, our patrons, et cetera, is, hey, the more money you can give back to us, the more impact we can have in the community. And one of the things I'm most excited about is we have a legacy fund within Penrod that is now getting to the point where we can actually give donations out of that legacy fund. We gave our first donation out of the legacy fund this past year, which was the Gavin sculpture in Broad Ripple. And I'm really excited to see what else we can do with that legacy fund to have a bigger impact, particularly in the public art, but also just bigger projects that exist throughout Central Indiana.
All right, well, our guest on the program today has been Tom Askey. Tom is the 2026 Penrod Art Fair chairman at Newfields on September 12th. So, Tom, my friend, as always, sir, thank you very much for being with us. Nothing but the best of luck.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us on. And if anyone wants any tickets, penrod.org, and you'll get access to both Evening with Penrod and fair tickets as well. So check us out, social media as well. Thank you.